Quite early, but we just wore the.
All right, we're live. All right, everyone. Welcome to House Government Operations and Military Affairs. It is Tuesday, February 10th. About 1:10 PM, and we're spending the next 50 minutes or so having a committee discussion on the FY 2027 budget. Interested parties have been sending in request memos to the committee for the last several weeks. And so due to the diligent work of our committee assistant in helping warehouse all of this information, everyone has a spreadsheet, which can also be found on our committee page. And we're just going to start having a conversation about what the committee wants to do about budget recommendations for this year's budget memo. Representative Pango has been helping curate all of this information for us. So I am going to hand this conversation over to her.
Great, thank you. So thanks to our committee assistant for compiling what you see before you. That is a preliminary spreadsheet on budget asks that we've received thus far. Some of the letters we received early on were not really specific. So we need to dig into those a little bit more. I'm probably going to start with what's on the spreadsheet. So if this is your area of jurisdiction that you have a budget buddy and you don't think the information is accurate, please check with your budget buddy if you think there is a question. So Vermont Food Bank is the first one on the list, and these are in no particular order. They have requested $5 million. And as you can see on the spreadsheet, they are requesting money for the Vermonters Feeding Vermonters program of $2 million, the Vermont Food Bank Network food shelves and meal sites, $2 million. And the ready response for food access in emergencies of $1 million. And then next on our list, actually, I should ask, who has the Vermont Food Bank in your portfolio with your budget? Anyone in particular have that? Maybe I shouldn't put people on the spot. Oh, that would be great. Thank you. We do have a list. I'm looking.
I have Agency of Education.
Yeah, that's not Vermont Food Bank.
What's my second one?
And maybe this is something that we probably shouldn't put anybody on the spot, and we can go from here if anybody thinks that there's an error in this, but this is my recollection of their ask. It was pretty straightforward. So I feel like this is.
Are we just having a general discussion about?
We're trying to establish what everybody has asked for so far.
Okay.
And if there's anything missing off this list. And then we will have a discussion at another point in time as to the merits. Yeah, because I don't think we have enough time on the agenda today to discuss the merits of each one of these. And we want to make sure we capture everybody we've heard from thus far. So we don't think we have anybody disagree with what they've asked for, because everybody kind of remembers that they had this $5 million ask and it's how it was broken out.
Right.
So I think we're good on that point for now.
And I think we had multiple organizations come in to speak to the same.
Yes.
Yes.
All supporting the 5 million.
The next one was NOFA, and that's the organic farmers. $500,000 funding to strengthen Vermont farm viability and to address food security by sustaining their programs of Crop Cash Plus and Farm Share. And that is within the human services budget. So if your area is human services, which I'm not sure who that might be, you might want to verify that because I don't believe we actually have a budget letter from NOFA. So do we have somebody with human services? It is B300s according to the spreadsheet. 42.
Yeah,
No.
it jumps there.
Okay, we've got to jump in, so we'll have to figure out who that is.
In funding to the Vermont Farm Viability, Rescue Security, same as the crop.
I'll just make a note of that.
Yeah.
Services is Bob Hooper.
Who has NOFA?
Yeah, but specifically the veterans.
Yeah. Okay, moving on, the retirement division of, this was from the treasurer's office. They requested no funds, is my understanding, but they wanted a couple of new positions. Does
And
anybody,
they were not paid for by.
by already existing,
Yes, and that is in the bill that we
right?
put in.
And the money for anything that deals with retirement administration comes out of the fund.
So it's self-funding,
Yeah,
okay?
we end up putting it back in and then we do the,
If I remember right, it was with the changes that we made for the unclaimed property,
Mhm.
and that funding
that doesn't,
increase was going to help, was going to offset and pay for the new position testimony that we received,
Sounds great.
Yes.
so that it would be a no cost. They just needed the authorization for more bodies.
And I do have a letter that was I just saw, but not sure where it went. That spoke to that. So I think we're good on that one. Okay, so here's a question, and maybe Bob or Matt, you can address this. The retirement division on this spreadsheet and the VPIC, the Vermont Pension Investment Commission. I'm thinking that those are the two positions that we just spoke of. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Well, one was the request of VPIC that we decided to not include in the bill before we voted it out, but they're still putting it in their budget.
Okay, so the VPIC financial director was not in the bill, but they are still requesting this from House Appropriations.
Yeah,
So we,
Correct.
and it was, they didn't ask for funding for that, is that correct?
Well, they asked
From
for the
us?
position, not from us, but
They asked for
I,
the position.
I'm very confident it would be a general fund allocation.
Okay,
Correct me if I'm wrong, Bob.
well, it depends. The financial director position would deal with the entire investment portfolio and would be partially paid out of plan assets, but when you get into the managing the OPEB stuff, which is different,
Yeah.
I think it would be state funds somehow, somewhere.
There was a general fund impact on that request.
I made a note of that, under the amount that we did not include this position in H, whatever the bill number is, I'll have to look it up.
567, I
Nine,
believe was the treasurer's name.
6 what? Sorry,
567.
5, 6, 7.
Yes, I believe.
Okay, thank you. But they're still asking for this position from House Appropriations. Okay, so then the Vermont retired state employees came in and asked for, yeah, this isn't really a budget ask, but I think we have to somehow make a recommendation. They asked for more members on the board.
Yes, and that was the component of the conversation that we were discussing to possibly include in that same bill. And we opted not to.
And we
And
want,
that wasn't a
Opted not to.
funded position, except they would have been paid a per diem, correct? if.
Correct. That's not like a
position-
staff, yes, but if there was a per diem, which is a possibility, it's not.
Moving on. Vermont Veterans Home. This one is complicated. We've got a lot of notes on this, but it looks like they're asking for $337,439 in general funds, which is very specific. And we probably got that from the House Appropriations spreadsheet. So, Bob, do you know anything else? Rep Hooper, do you know anything else that they were asking for in terms of funding?
I don't think anything else, but some of this is fairly critical because it's direct patient care positions. The agency staffing thing is recruitment is a big issue too. Andy,
I agree, and I believe it also funds their budget instead of them coming back for a budget adjustment. Is what they've had to do in the past, and last year we fully funded it, so they wouldn't have to do a budget adjustment every year. So I think this funds the budget in full,
Okay.
so they're asked.
Okay, so for clarification, what you're saying is like in past budgets, they would be slightly below ask. And
Yes.
then have to come back for budget adjustment to true it up.
Their budget,
depending on what finance and management does
yeah,
Okay,
after we,
but the cycle seems to be, or at least in the moment,
like to.
doing it fully funded prevents that sort of like repetitive
I
step.
believe so, yes.
Yes, and I just pulled up the letter from Melissa Jackson, who is the CEO of the Vermont Veterans Home. Their total budget is approaching $31 million.
Mhm.
And this is the only request that's different outside of that, so that they won't have to, exactly what you said, won't have to come back for a budget adjustment. Hopefully.
Right.
Okay, so that one definitely have. The next one on the next page, the Attorney General's request. We did not receive a letter from them, to my knowledge, unless other committee members got a letter. You just forwarded it to me. It's under your name.
I think it was not just, but yeah. early
Yes,
last week.
on February 3rd. So last week, a week ago today. Yep, so the request that Rep. Nugent received is $85,000 in additional base funding. Conversion of a limited service position to a permanent position. And same thing for a different division for the court diversion and pretrial services, conversion of a limited service position to a permanent position. And that the funding for that position is already in the Attorney General's office base funding appropriation. So the Attorney General's office is seeking the following: additional base funding of $335,000. So we're gonna have to update this, Nick, but I'm gonna take notes on this. $335,000 for ongoing costs for a new legal case management system. And I think we're gonna need to maybe hear from them about this, because this is a little complicated. They want to make a transfer of $1.5 million to cover a self-funding deficit in the Medicaid fraud and residential abuse unit. And using the remainder, there was a chunk of $2 billion from FY25 recoveries. they want to use the remainder of that 2 million, which would be like 1.47. No, 0.47, sorry. As a one-time increase in spending authority to cover increases in salaries and benefits. And for potential use to cover a possible loss of federal grant funds. So I think what they're saying is that they want to ask for another 375 and another 86,000. Was that your understanding, Rep. Nugent?
Yes, I did not have extensive conversation about the specific request with them.
So maybe we need to hear from the Attorney General's office.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. And by recoveries, what do they mean there? Is that sort of
Not really
like
sure.
savings from or dollars not allocated that were appropriated? Yeah. I'm a little curious.
Okay, so we can have them in to talk more deeply about what this all actually means. Rep. Pincinel?
Have we had them in at all? Because
No.
I was gonna say, because none of this is ringing a bell.
Nope.
No, it like showed up a
Okay.
budget memo request
Okay.
and no actual conversation, so.
Yeah, so the next box down on your spreadsheet shows some of those costs broken out that I was just talking about. So we can have a deeper discussion with them when they come in. Vermont State Ethics Commission, we did get a memo from them and we heard from them. And their ask was $351,000 and $351,382. And it's broken out for general counsel, a staff attorney, and some additional costs. So we heard from them in depth and we can discuss that when we have our next budget discussion. Vermont Access Network, we have heard from them several times through several different people, and their memo requests that we fully fund 1.89 million. And I'm not sure this is reflected on the spreadsheet. But that is their full ask, and the reason they want the full ask is because they've been asked to roll community radio into their entire budget. If they do not get the full 1.89 million, rolling the community radio piece into it, it's going to cut into their existing budget. And then they've lost a certain amount, 8% or more, due to lost cable revenue and some increasing expenses. So the 540,000 that you see reflected in the amount column, we would really want to change that to 1.89 is their full ask, 1.89 million. And the 540,000 adds back in for what I believe the recommended budget took out, but it needs to include that 90,000 if we want to support community radio. So we'll have to have a
So
longer
that's like
conversation.
fragmented into two. The 540 is on top of the line item that currently exists,
Right.
or what it would be with the adjustment. if I recall correctly. Yeah.
So the total ask is gonna be 1.89, but for whatever reason, it's only at 1.3 or 1.2 something right now, but they really need to recoup that extra 540,000 to be whole.
Yep.
So when we have our deeper budget discussion, we'll share their memos with you all again so we can read them. carefully.
So the 540,000 is not in additional to their 1 point something. It's to make from what was in the governor's budget and to bring them up to what the original is, the 540. It's not 540 additional to what they.
1.89 is the total that they're asking
This
for.
540 is included in that
Yes,
1.89.
it is.
Correct.
Yeah, which also includes the 90,000
Right.
for community radio.
Okay, gotcha.
And yes, and they were very, very conscious of the fact that they were asking for a notable sum above what is existing. I believe the governor's budget recommend. I think that might have had sort of like an inflationary adjustment that carries over from the previous year. But they were just being very upfront with us that they've had a couple of variables, their operations costs that is resulting in this additional ask.
And then, yeah, and a lot of times, for instance, they're kind of the only game in town that keeps the public informed.
Like during those big flood emergencies when the power was out and you couldn't get TV or internet.
Well, and you think on the funding side there, they get a fee for cable. And that's how they've traditionally used a lot of their, or gotten a lot of their resource, but people are now going over to internet-based
Right.
TV. It's no longer considered cable, so their funding is going down.
Right.
Significantly.
They're estimating an 8% loss, I think.
Yes.
Yeah,
because
that's
of that
just
cable
1 year, I
piece.
think. And, you know, I think people use it a lot more than
Oh, they do.
most people think.
Oh, absolutely.
In Burlington, at least. Um, You know, you get an hour or a half an hour for just about anything. They do all the election stuff. And much community service.
No, if anybody wasn't sure, the date on January 15th is when we took the testimony and it has their budget request in it.
We also have copies of the letter that they sent us
Governor's lunch.
that we can share.
There's out there that are curious to see it.
So it's on our webpage on
Yes.
January 15th. Thank you. That's helpful. And then the last one we have on the spreadsheet is, if you remember, Common Good Vermont came in, asked for $563,442, broken down into two pieces, 295,665 in one-time funding to help nonprofits navigate federal cuts, executive orders, and policy shifts that affect service delivery. And then another 267,777 in base funding to improve nonprofit capacity, financial management and compliance, strengthening the state's own grant making and contracting systems. So we also have a letter from them stating the exact same thing. And then my question to the committee is, are there other funding requests before I get to a very last one that we got last night? That anybody can think about that we have heard from organizations who are not represented on this spreadsheet?
I got libraries on my list. I reached out to them, but I haven't heard any.
Okay.
You have.
No, we have not heard from libraries. I have not heard anything more on my jurisdiction, which is the governor's and the lieutenant governor's office budgets. So suggestion for anybody who hasn't heard from their agency or organization, maybe check in with your budget buddy first to see if they have heard from them. It could be that they're just asking for level funding or they're not asking for funding at all, but I can't imagine that.
So I have Secretary of State's office and I know they've asked for staffing.
Have you checked with your budget buddy?
No, he wasn't here last week.
Okay.
Day, so He's on my list to try finding him, so.
Okay, so there also is a link from the Chair of Appropriations to find our sections of the budget where the Appropriations Committee is putting in who they hear from. And it's on an ongoing basis because they're going to be hearing from agencies and organizations until February 13th this week. They've got two big hearings coming up where they're going to hear from people like every 2 minutes. They're going to hear from a new group. So after the 13th, that should be updated more and better. So I'll send you the link and you can check that because then you can look at your budget section and say, oh yeah, they did ask House Appropriations for $1 million or $500,000 or whatever. That might be something we'll do later this week, once they finish their hearings. And just so everybody knows, the budget letter is due to House Appropriations on February 26th. So in the past, committees have asked for extended time to get their work done. I don't really think we can because the 27th is the last day we're here until after town meeting break. So I don't want to make House Appropes wait until after town meeting break to get our information. So if we could have everything by the 26th and send it to them, I would feel much better about that. I think we all would. It would be off our plates. So the only other thing I have, unless anybody else has heard from anyone else. No. Okay, so the only other thing I have is Rep. Wazazak wrote to us yesterday, late yesterday. And unfortunately, FEMA has denied the appeal for disaster coverage for damage done during the 2025 July floods. And the estimated damage is $1.85 million, with $1.4 million going to the town of, or occurring in the town of Sutton alone, which is pretty mind blowing for that little town. So his ask for us is that we consider supporting the appropriation that's outlined in H 679, which is the all hazards flood bill, in our letter of appropriations to the House Appropriations Committee. So that's the only other request that I know of that we've gotten. And if anyone is listening and has contacts who they know should be asking for budget requests here in this committee, to please do so in writing as soon as possible to chair, vice chair, ranking member, and committee assistant. And if that's too hard to remember, just the whole GovOps committee would be great. So that's pretty much all I have for today. We have something else on our agenda at 2:00. So I don't know if you want us to do a little work on
Yeah, I
our
think we should.
sections of the budget offline.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea for right now. This is like, I mean, it's a very digestible template that we have. So thank you, everyone who worked on that. And so, yeah, individual members with the assignments, take a look at that. Maybe Nick can help you pull that archive, take some of the budget memos to review. And then we'll pick work back up at 2 p.m. for a dusting off one of the old ones, tranche of Bennington Town charts. And until 2, yeah, it gives us about 23 minutes to work on this and other things, because there is no shortage of moving bill activity in this committee right now. All right, Nick, take us off, brother.